Buckingham Palace has announced Prince Philip has passed away at the age of 99. Hey guys, welcome back to another shared news from home. We have some sad royal news to report today. We're going to get into all of the details of Prince Philip's tragic passing. As always, I am your host, Fiona Zaring, joined by the wonderful Tyler Joseph Ellis. The palace announced this heartbreaking news in a brief statement, which I will read. It says, quote, "It is with deep sorrow that Her Majesty the Queen announces the death of her beloved husband, His Royal Highness the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle. Further announcements will be made in due course. The royal family joined with people around the world in mourning his loss." So Prince Philip did pass away at 99. He would have turned 100 this coming June. His passing actually falls on the 16th wedding anniversary of Prince Charles and Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall. This is just such heartbreaking news all around. I woke up to a
Mhm.
notification. It absolutely
Yeah.
broke my heart. I mean, this is just tough. This is one of those tough days. I mean, Tyler, how did the news strike you?
It's tough waking up to news of anyone in the public eye dying, and not to mention someone in the royal family who has been around. I mean, our parents, like it just is so multi-generational in terms of how long he's been around, Prince Philip. And I just think it's one of those really just stark times where we're reminded that even the greats pass. And I mean, 99, that's no small feat. And I think that is a long life. And I think it's definitely time to celebrate his life on in the royal family. And but it's one of those things where both can be true. But it can be what a triumph to live that long, and what
Mhm.
sorrow it is to get news like this. It's not easy, and I always sort of think of the royals as sort of untouchable, like as if like death like wouldn't touch them. So it's tough getting any sort of news like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I am with you. I honestly have said many times, and I'm always joking, but now it feels even more like, oh my gosh, like I say all the time, the queen is
Yeah.
just immortal. Like she is going to
Yeah,
live
yeah,
forever.
yeah,
She's
yeah,
going to
yeah.
outlive me. And it's always a little shocking when you're jolted back to reality. It's obviously,
Mhm.
heartbreaking as well. We've been keeping up. I'm sure royal fans out there have been, very aware of this. The prince had been battling some health issues. In
Yeah.
a previous statement, the palace announced that he was hospitalized back in February. He was advised to go to the hospital after reporting to his doctor that he was feeling unwell. He ended up being
Mhm.
there for a month. He had a treatment for an infection and a successful procedure for a pre existing heart condition. After his stay in the hospital, he did return to Windsor Castle, where he and the Queen have stayed throughout the duration of this crazy pandemic. The Queen's former press secretary actually told People magazine that she has been prepared for his death after years of health troubles. He said, quote, "She would have thought about this moment several times, and her way would be to remain as steady and calm as possible. That comes naturally to her through her temperament and her experience." He also added, "In my many years of working for her, she was always calm, no matter what was going on. But for any human being, this is a very cathartic moment." So there's something about those statements that really just struck
Yeah.
me. Anytime someone who actually, worked closely with a royal sort of speaks out, it always just sort of sits with me. Like we think of the queen as such a stoic figure. I absolutely
Yeah.
see that. She does always seem so calm, cool, collected, put together.
Mhm.
She's faced so much in her years as a monarch. But it kind of struck me reading that, like the thought of, of course, when any loved one is getting older and older, you sort of those thoughts sort of start to enter your mind. But the queen has always had to not, only process this as a wife, as someone who loves him, but as the Queen of England, right? I mean, she has a role still to play. And it just sort of struck me like this is going to be such a hard loss, and watching her go through this in the public eye at such an old age herself, it just, I don't know, it's been sitting with me.
Yeah. Absolutely, Fiona. I think I just The grief is a thing that all of us experience, and it takes many forms, and it's really difficult, and I can't imagine having to go through a grieving process with the weight of being Her Majesty the Queen, on your shoulders. Um, so I feel for all of them, and at the same time, I mean, that statement was so that wild to me. How I mean, the Queen has had to endure a lot of tragedy and just a lot of life experience, and I wonder how if she just is a master coper at this point and can understand
Mhm.
how to feel her emotions in hopefully a healthy way while remaining and retaining her stoicism, like what you mentioned, is just so hard. It's so hard, and I just completely feel for the entire family. I really do. As someone who has had to experience different people in my life passing, I mean, like how we all have. I think empathy comes into play here. I think the whole world is watching.
Oh, absolutely. I think there's a lot of hearts going out to the royal family right
Hmm.
now. Let's take a look at so Prince Philip actually retired from his public duties in August of 2017, which I knew
Hmm.
he had been retired for some time,
Yeah.
but 2017, I mean, he really retired not too long ago, all things
Yeah.
considered, considering his age, which I feel like is just really impressive. He was married to the Queen for 73 years, you guys. 73 years of marriage. That is just crazy to me. That is 7 decades. They actually had the
Yeah.
longest royal marriage in history. Throughout their marriage, they, experienced war, multiple family upheavals, a lifetime in the public eye, and they made it for 73 years. They, of course, have 4 children, Princess Anne, of course,
Hmm.
next in line to the throne, Prince Charles, Prince Andrew, and Prince Edward. And then they have 8 grandchildren, which of course includes Prince William and Prince Harry. And then wait for it, 9 great grandchildren. Such a huge family. On
Hmm.
their golden wedding anniversary, which was in 1997, the Queen offered a very rare glimpse into their relationship. She said at the time, "He has quite simply been my strength and stay all these years. I owe him a debt greater than he would ever claim." And that is, quite a quote to get from the Queen, because
Yeah.
obviously they keep their private lives very, very private.
Hmm.
Interestingly enough, the executive producer of Netflix's The Crown, and let's be very clear, The Crown is not, biographical, it is fiction, but they did do a lot of
Yeah.
research into the family. And the executive producer of The Crown said it was one of her greatest achievements, her being the Queen, being allowed to marry the love of her life. And if you've watched The Crown, and you're watching this, you guys will know what I'm talking about. She fought for marrying Philip. That was so important to her. And their marriage, I mean, how many years? There are you can lean into the not perfect moments, you can lean into the perfect moments, of course, but I just think that it's really, really special, granted the history of the royal family, that she married for love, right? And I
Yeah.
just think that when you think about that, it puts today into just a different light, into a different perspective. This was truly the love of her life, and it's a beautiful thing to say.
Yeah. Oh, you couldn't have said it better myself. And I just think, oh, that quote from the golden anniversary is just so touching. I love seeing relationships last. You don't see it very often, and especially those in the public eye. And I will never know like the inner workings of the relationship. I mean, they're very private, as you mentioned, but I like to think that they had a great marriage for 73 years when it lasted that long. And it just I hate I don't even want to bring this up, but it just makes me think about like the future of the royals in general, and how I think this sort of broke the glass a little bit in my brain of, wait, how is the royal family even going to look after the reign of Her Majesty the Queen, and like how it's going to be a completely different set of things. I'm on the sort of the royal side of TikTok, and it sort of goes into like what the changes will be, and I haven't even occupied that thought in my mind ever. because again, that
Mhm.
feeling of immortality with this family is so strong, and this is a little bit of a brick in that window. So, it's just I think a lot of people are then recalibrating, like, wait, what is the royal family without Prince Philip? And I think we're just going to see more of
Mhm.
that, and I am confident will continue. But but it is just one of those things. It's one of those passings that not only is really sad, but really sort of changes your view on a larger institution that are the royals. I don't know. I don't know.
No, absolutely. I'm totally with you. I mean, if you think about it, like for so many of us that are walking the earth right now, we haven't existed here without the queen, the prince.
Precisely.
So it's very
Yeah.
jarring. Literally. I mean, I was born and they existed, and that is just it. That is what many of us
And
have
our
known. So
parents were
it is
born and they
very
existed.
right. Right.
Yeah.
It really puts, you're so right. It puts the whole institution,
Yeah.
the whole family, it really makes you realize how big a part of, I mean, hello, we're here in America, how big a part of like our consciousness of what that looks like was.
Yeah.
Obviously, since the news broke of his passing, the royal family has been paying tribute to him. All three of the official royal Twitter and Instagram pages have changed their icons, to honor him. William and Kate changed their cover photo on Twitter to a black and white photo of the Duke. All three of the accounts have shared, of course, the same statement announcing his death, alongside a black and white portrait of him in his military uniform. The royal family's official website was taken down and replaced with a tribute to the prince, on a black background, very
Mhm.
somber. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle reacted to the news of his death by posting a message on their website as well. This is their charitable organization, Archwell.
Mhm.
On a dark background, the message reads, "In loving memory of His Royal Highness, the Duke of Edinburgh, 1921 to 2021. Thank you for your service. You'll be greatly missed." So I have to say, these are not, the typical celebrity death reactions, for lack of a better way of
Mhm.
putting it. The royal family is going to be very buttoned up right now. Like I
Yeah.
said, we saw the same statement shared. There's just not going to be a lot of emotion put
Yeah.
out into the public, at least at this time. I don't really foresee much in the future either. That's just not their way.
Yeah.
But I think there is no doubt how emotional of a day behind the scenes this is for everyone involved, and how, the whole world is really feeling this loss. I think it's,
Mhm.
wonderful that Harry and Meghan took the steps that they did, especially considering everything going on, in
Yeah.
that lens at the
Of
moment.
course.
But I feel like these statements were to be expected. This is what
Mhm.
we were going to see from them. Very
Yeah.
formal, very poised. I mean, what do you make of these?
Yeah. I think you're right. It is to be expected. I think it's just a cultural difference and something
Hmm.
that maybe us in America don't understand. We're so emotional here, and um, and really like are willing to show that emotion and post on social media about it all. And but when it comes to a figure like this, the respect I think is at the forefront, and remaining stoic. Of course, it's somber, but it's stoic because I think that's what I ultimately he would have wanted, an honorable acknowledgement.
Hmm.
I think that is 100% exactly what it was to be expected here, and yeah.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, listen, with what happens next, there is a formal process. There is a blueprint for the next steps that will be
Hmm.
taken. Funeral plans have been set in motion. The Queen is going to be entering an 8-day period of mourning. She's going to refrain from carrying out any royal duties during this time. Of course, affairs of state will also be put on pause. And
Hmm.
then, following the 8 days, a further period of official royal mourning is expected to continue. The country is expected to go into a period of 10 days of mourning. So, everyone in the UK, the royal household will be doing this for 30 days. And at this time, during the 30 days, the royal guardsmen will be seen with black armbands on their tunics in honor and, as a show of respect. Due to the ongoing pandemic, this is sort of what's interesting
Mm,
here is, of course, there is a very specific process that is expected to take place, but the pandemic is what it is. So it is going to change the way some of this
wow.
looks. Funeral plans will likely have to be modified because, I mean, let's face it, there are just restrictions on crowd movements and numbers. There are
Mhm,
rules about the number of people that are allowed to attend gatherings like funerals. So it's going to be interesting to see the alterations that they, of course, are going to have to make. Rumors have, of course, already started about whether or not Harry and Meghan will be returning
mhm,
to England, to attend the funeral. People magazine is reporting that it is very likely that Harry will return, but Meghan is a little bit up in the air as of right now. There are, of course, complications to consider. Travel to the UK is extremely restricted right now, but this
mhm.
is something that would fall into the category of it is very likely that there won't be an issue getting Harry and
Yeah.
Meghan back to the UK. That being said, there will have to be, of course, a quarantine period, coronavirus
Mhm.
tests, that will be taken, very, very seriously. Not just within the family, but there are protocols in place, that the UK has
Yeah.
established for people traveling into the country at this time. So, of course, they'll be tested before attending. What is unclear at this time is whether or not Harry and Meghan have been vaccinated. Just personally, as someone
Ooh.
who follows them, I feel like they would follow in the footsteps of other public figures and make it known to the public when and if they get, vaccinated. So
Mhm.
again, there is a possibility that they could be vaccinated right now, but we just don't know that. Technically, in the state of California, which is where they're living, I believe it's April 15th, maybe April 16th, they are going to be eligible very soon. But
Mhm.
it does take, depending on what vaccine they get, some time for it to kick in and be fully effective.
You're
So
right.
like I said, I mean, once you start unraveling the COVID thread, there are a lot of factors
Ugh.
to consider. And
Yeah.
right now, like I mentioned, sources are saying Harry probably definitely going to attend. Meghan is,
Mhm.
of course, pregnant. There's a lot to be
Yeah.
considered there, health risk wise. So we don't know if we'll be seeing her at the funeral. But all of this is kind of to go back to there is a very formal procedure that needs to be followed to get this right, to honor him in the way that he, of course, would have expected. So I don't know, Tyler. It's going to be very interesting. I mean, they said there will be more details in the days to come. I think they might be sort of at the drawing board right now, figuring out the path to executing this. But of course, we know, his life will be honored with a proper funeral.
Good. Good. I just Fiona, I'm so glad you mentioned all the COVID of it all, because boy, does that complicate things and put a wrench in tradition. And I'm excited to see what how they can sort of circumvent some of the restrictions and maybe turn it into a beautiful thing. I don't know. But of course we'll be watching.
Yes, we definitely, I mean, the whole world will be watching. You
Yeah.
guys, as more updates are announced, with the plans and whether or not Harry and Meghan will be traveling, I'm sure all of that will be announced in the days to come. So we will be sure to keep you posted. Obviously, this is some very heartbreaking news. We want to hear all of your thoughts, your feelings. So let us know how you guys are processing this down in the comments. Like I said, we are going to do our best to keep you updated on all things Royals as this news continues to unfold. So if you're not already, be sure to subscribe so we can keep you posted in real time as things get announced. As always, I am your host, Fiona Zaring. I was joined by the wonderful Tyler Joseph Ellis. Thank you all for tuning in and have a good weekend. Bye, guys.